Okay, welcome. Another episode of Drink While You Think, and a super special episode. As you can see, our dear friend Amanda is here. No offense to Tate, who's already been on, and Will Lopez, but we like Amanda a lot. But
we like her a lot better 363 days a year. There's 2 days when the Saints are playing the Falcons where we don't talk to her, but that's all right.
I mean, I'm not even kidding. I almost had a poster made to put up behind me that said 28-8 in third quarter, but 28-3 third quarter, but I didn't because I thought that would be mean, Matthew.
It would have changed the vibe dramatically.
That's all right. We'll just show you the pretend official throwing a flag.
No kidding.
On the flag that was never thrown. So
I'm gonna check the box for that. We always find a way to get NFL somehow put in the cloud accounting podcast. I guess real quick for anyone who might be new watching this and wondering what in the world you stumbled across. The only thing we're trying to accomplish here is have a couple friends and just have some drinks. We love doing this when we're together, so we don't get to do it when we're together. So we're finding virtual ways just to kind of hang out with our friends who are in the accounting profession, share a drink, talk about whatever's kind of going on with us. And so the most important thing we got to kick off is, all right, y'all, what's everybody drinking? Amanda, what you got? What are you sipping on here?
Well, Kenji, I know, first of all, I'll say most of the times I tune in, it's folks drinking beer. So I was not going to show up with a beer. So I have a New Orleans old fashioned.
Oh my.
So this is bourbon and Peychaud's bitters, which are made here in New Orleans, and a Satsuma, which is a New Orleans fruit.
That's
nice. But we just went like next level. Oh my gosh. Amanda just classed this up like in a huge way. Oh, now I'm super jealous. All right, Matthew, what do you got?
Well, she doesn't know that I have multiple drinks depending on who the guest is that they pull out. So if she's going to call me out for drinking beer, I'm going to pull out the Inconceivable 2014 Red Blend.
Nice.
That is now at buy one, get one free at the Candler Park Market.
Is it inconceivable or inconceivable?
Inconceivable.
It's inconceivable. So
just remember, whatever you open or pour for yourself on this episode, you have to finish. So this could get
finish it.
In honor of Amanda being with us, I was going to try to do a Sazerac. However, it got a little complicated, like absinthe and things like that. That's a New Orleans drink, right? It's a Sazerac.
Yep.
So I was going to do that because I like rye and all that. I was like, okay, it's got too complicated. So instead, I went for the good old classic Abita Amber.
Abita Amber, nice.
That's in New Orleans, right? I mean, that's a
it's close to New Orleans, about 30 miles away. But I'll tell you, Abita was probably cheers. Abita was probably really one of the very first like local craft breweries. I mean, I can remember going there in college, which was 25 years ago, and being like, "You think this small batch beer thing is going to stick around?" It turns out they're probably the biggest brewery in Louisiana. I mean, they're huge.
They're big. They're everywhere. So, anyway, next time I'll get more creative. And
I like it.
Try to do the Sazerac. But everybody's drink good?
Everybody's good.
All good?
Pretty good.
Yeah.
Pretty good.
Yours looks solid.
It's pretty good. I'll tell you.
What do you have in there? Like in the
the best part of it are these really delicious cherries. So they're Luxardo maraschino cherries, which are like candy.
That is solid.
Like the whole drink is just about getting to the cherries, to be honest. So good.
They're the drink is a conduit just for the cherries.
Yeah, they're so sweet. Like I can feel my teeth like hurt. They're so delicious.
That's awesome.
Oh, it's so awesome. All right,
good.
Amanda. Now that we're consuming, we can get to it. You, from what I can tell, I think you say that you have 3 businesses. I think you actually have 4 businesses because I also count like the accounting salon or saloon, as we were just talking about. But Aguillard Accounting, Bluewire, Elefant. Oh my gosh, I don't forget Elefant and accounting. So as I count it, that's 4. I think 4 businesses. You have 4 businesses. You have 2 kids. Mm-hmm. Is that the appropriate ratio? Should most entrepreneurs strive for twice as many businesses as children. Is that a thing that only crazy people should do, or everyone?
Well, I'll tell you, I think it'd be crazier if it was 4 kids and 2 businesses, to be honest. So thankfully, we stopped at 2. And they're pretty self-sufficient now. They're young teenagers. So
how old are they again?
They are 14 and almost 16.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Which is crazy.
Yeah, same as mine. Mine are 14 and 16, so yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy. But it because it happens in like 5 minutes. Like I was at the library this morning and there's this toddler time, whatever. I was returning some books. And this little girl walks by and she looks like my daughter did when she was about 1.5 years, and I almost started crying. And I had to stop the woman who probably thinks I'm a creep. Like, your daughter looks so much like my daughter did when she was a baby. And the woman's like, okay. But it goes by in 5 minutes. You know this. Y'all have kids.
It goes by quick. Mine the same age. At their school, there was an Easter kind of performance there. And the little kids got up and like did this whole little thing for, and that same thing. I was like, almost getting none of them are my kids, but I'm almost getting a little bit like, look how cute they are. I remember when my kids were cute like that. Mm-hmm. Oh my gosh. So give us a quick rundown on the 4 businesses.
Yep. Sure. So I started, my first was Aguillard Accounting, which I started back in 2012 when I decided to go back to work and didn't want to go back into real public accounting. So I was like, well, I'll just give this a shot. And this was, you guys know, this was the beginning of the cloud, right? This is 2012, right? The year that Xero comes into the US market and really pushes QBO to change and get better. And so I was like, well, I've got these 2 kids. At the time, they were 7 and 8. I was like, I'm going to give it a shot, take some savings account money and like just roll the dice and start this accounting firm out of my guest bedroom. And it did all right. It did pretty well. I've kept it to what I call a lifestyle practice because I try to bring my kids to school every morning myself and definitely pick them up after school myself. So that's awesome. It's kind of a short window. So anyway, so that was the number 1. And then as I was building Aguillard Accounting, again, Xero had just come to the market and we were a Xero exclusive firm. And so we got really close to Xero. And we really spent a lot of time learning the ins and outs. And my best friend from college, Monica, she was helping me with the firm, and she and I were like, we should teach people how to use Xero because nobody knows how in the US. And so we came up with Elefant, which is a silly name for a company, but we're like, who cares? It's really an excuse for us to travel. It's not going to be a viable company. And then, this is about 2016, I guess. Then folks started asking us to train their staff. So we thought we were going into it to teach small business owners how to use Xero on their own. And we were going to travel. We were going to have like on-sites across the country in the cities we wanted to go visit. But it turned out that really there was a bigger need for staff training for firms, and it needed to be virtual. So our original business concept is completely different than what we've turned into. So now we, as you guys know, we train on not just Xero, but QuickBooks and practice management stuff too. So that's business 2. And then a couple of years ago, some guys that and I decided that there was a need for some curated consulting in the accounting space, and not like hashtag I'm a thought leader kind of consulting, like, not the look at me with a pretty girl, I can make you $1 million firm in 6 weeks, like not that stuff, but true like technical consulting and for traditional firms who don't know where to start. Like, how do they hire their first remote hire? How do they have an automated onboarding process? So those guys and I started Bluewire. And then this accounting salon thing kind of, that had been in my head for a while. And I remember telling you guys about it when y'all were in New Orleans a year or 2 ago, where I was like, what do you think? I'm
going to pull something up just in the background just to show, Look at that.
That was like probably the night the accounting salon was conceived.
I think it was being discussed. We were talking about it.
We were talking about it.
Yeah.
So that's funny. I don't even remember that.
A little blurry for me too.
Yeah, but I was telling you guys,
we
I was
had
like,
more better food that trip than better drink. So the drinks came later because that was after the food. That was that was a sweet restaurant.
Come to New Orleans, I'm gonna feed you.
Yeah.
So anyway, we were at the bar and I was like, what do you I've been kind of thinking about this idea where, like, every time I go to a national conference, the content's kind of crappy because it's usually sponsored. And so it's like commercials. But what I love is at the end of the day, meeting up with people that I never get to see and just having drinks at the bar and talking about what's going on in the space and like high-end stuff. So like, what if we could just curate who we hung out with and had sort of a roundtable kind of learning thing, much in the style of a French salon of the 18th century, which is where it comes from. And so, you know, I talked to a couple people about it just sort of randomly. And then finally I talked to David Leary, the day I met him in person. He was here in New Orleans for a conference. And I was like, I have this crazy idea. What if we just had like a meeting, kind of a think tank of folks that really get cloud accounting? And I was like, I know Xero people, you know, QuickBooks people. There's not really a good cross-platform deal event. So he's like, yeah, I'm in. And so then we picked 18 folks to come to New Orleans last fall. And did sort of a pilot, and it turned out okay.
It was great. It was my, I mean, I had an absolute blast. It was my favorite, by far, my favorite event I attended last year by a long
Thanks.
Yeah, it was awesome.
Thanks. And it was good content. Like it's content that's at a higher level because everybody who's there really gets it. And so we were talking about, you know, you talked about sales funnels and it's a little cheeky. It's fun. So anyway, so we're doing it again. We're doing it again.
I can't wait. Coming up soon, back in New Orleans. And I guess to that point, I'll say my last kind of direct question. Well, I may have one or two more. But to you, obviously people who are watching this probably figured out by now. You're from New Orleans. Give me your favorite thing about New Orleans and then your least favorite thing about New Orleans.
I'll start with least favorite thing because it just happened. In living in New Orleans, you live in a constant fear of infrastructure going down. So I always say it's like New Orleans has the infrastructure of a decent Caribbean nation, right? Like it's about that good. It's that reliable. Like it's a nice third world country, but it's a third world country, right? And so we have right now this huge storm system coming through. It'll probably hit you guys overnight, but the light started flickering about 30 minutes ago, and I was like, can I do this on my phone? So that's probably my least favorite thing about New Orleans. But gosh, my most favorite thing, I mean, there's always something really cool to do. So New Orleans is a very textured community, right? Like there's all these layers and layers of culture and subculture and groups and crews and you know, ethnic groups and societal groups. Like it's all this crazy mesh of things. I've lived here 20 years now and I still am finding new things I love about the city. But I could walk out my door right now and probably have a great time. I mean, there's always something going on. I mean, we have Mardi Gras, we have Jazz Fest, we have, you know, a Voodoo Fest. We have, which I'm way too old for, if anybody out there has been a Voodoo Fest. It's been a couple of years since I've been. But anyway, there's just always something. Even the small things are fun. Even the street festivals are fun. Even the neighbor's crawfish boil is fun. There's just always something good to do in New Orleans.
It's one of those cities I tell people, like, I think a sign of these cities I like are you could immediately wake up in it, not knowing where you're at, and or walk outside and you're like, okay, I'm in New Orleans. There's no other place in the world I can be but in New Orleans. It's a great, great city, despite of what probably Matthew and I think about the football team, but we'll get to that later. All right, we'll get into some round robin questions. You mentioned, and I'll pull it up just so we want people who can see it. Let's just share the whole desktop. I probably screwed this up. Let's see.
That was a fun trip.
There's our picture. Oh, it was a fun trip. Great trip. Okay, so you mentioned with Elefant, you're big into kind of learning and helping educate. I guess I'll go around to all of us. I mean, when we think about our peer group, and you have lots of awesome courses up here. When you think about our peer group of accountants, what's the thing you think the course, the class, the education that most of our peers need the most? I'm going to give you a second to drink. Matthew's been unusually quiet. Matthew, what's the class that you course you think most accountants need?
For running a business or for doing accounting?
Take your pick.
Well, when you put this up there, I mean, your mind immediately goes to I could be David Leary right now. It's got to be about niches. Like people need to learn about specialties. No, I mean, yeah, I guess from my perspective, I don't know if this is a source. I mean, it's not a source. It's just a concept. It's just anything that helps narrow your focus, either technology, niche, anything. The fewer things you can narrow your focus to, the faster you grow. It's just totally counterintuitive and hard to learn.
Yeah.
But the more and more I've narrowed my focus on, like whenever we've narrowed down to only systems we support or only certain verticals or even a certain class of customers, the deeper you understand it, the easier it is to win customers. So that's just it's probably the biggest counterintuitive learning that people need to do.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I would say, I mean, it's probably just what I'm relevant to me right now. I just think that I still find just basic communication. Like it sounds crazy, but like we have that. I mean, I don't know how it is for you, Amanda, but like I feel like we struggle with that all the time at Acuity. Is we got people with the technical skills. I think we're probably a little different than most. We're pretty cloud technology forward, so we've got some of that stuff pretty good. Man, some of the things we do, myself, I'm probably the worst at it as well, but just basic, whether it's conflict resolution with clients or just communication, that's an area I don't know. That's a tough one to kind of teach and educate people on, but man, do we fumble that a lot. That's a challenge for us quite a bit. I think that's where we're rarely ever do we get in trouble with the client for like, oh, you did something wrong. It's almost always coming back to some kind of communication issue. Something there. But I don't know. What about you? You have a lot of these classes. Are there either particular ones that you have that you're like, oh, this one is such a slam dunk for firms, or one you're thinking of that you guys wish you had to give out there? What are you thinking?
You were teeing this up for me perfectly.
Come on.
So I'll tell you what we're spending, like where our real focus is this year is around remote. And as you guys, I think know, Jeff Phillips of Accounting Fly is now a partner in Elefant. He does recruiting for staff recruiting for accounting firms. And, part of his struggle in that business is that you guys know there's virtually zero unemployment in the accounting industry. And where we are in 2019, there are specific skill sets that firms want that don't exist in their communities. So like for me in New Orleans, going back even 3 or 4 years, I wanted someone who was Zero certified. It didn't exist in New Orleans. So that's how part of the reason I end up with people all over the country. But so we're seeing that as a real struggle. And I don't think we have to convince firms any longer that they need to embrace remote or be open to remote. I think they get it. They just don't know how to start. So we are doing a bunch of content around that this summer. We're kicking it off on, I think it's May 15th with a webinar called The Remote Leader. So really talking about leadership from a partner or stakeholder perspective for these remote teams, because as you said, it's a lot about communication. And I think where firms drop the ball when it comes to having remote teams is that they expect things to stay the same. They expect that the leadership from the top down doesn't change, but there are specific changes that have to be made. And you have to lead deliberately when you're not in the same space. So anyway, so we're starting with the remote leadership, and then we are working on some underlying content about, from the staff perspective, how to be a good remote employee or contractor. So
that's awesome. I think you're right. I think everyone at this point, or predominantly firms, are like, yep, I agree with that. It makes sense. It's just, how do you get started? So that's right. Awesome. That's right. Awesome. 180 degrees different, but let's talk music. And I say this because when I think of you, Amanda, a couple things. One, you turned me on to some great music. I don't remember. I'm sure it was one of these sessions where we're kind of hanging out or just, I don't know what, doing what, drinking.
It was the third bar.
Yeah.
The third bar?
It was the third bar.
Probably.
I remember it. There was
well, you know why you remember, by the way.
Because it had the jukebox, because I was not drinking.
You were not drinking.
I was at the time, remember?
That's right.
It was the third bar. We had the jukebox and Yeah, it's kind of like
Was that Pals or was that 12 Mile Limit?
Pals, yeah. Oh, I don't remember which
12
one.
Mile Limit might have been second. Pals might have been third. I can't remember.
not the place doing trivia. It was
That was 12 Mile Limit.
But girl,
Okay.
you got some good music taste. That was
It was
awesome.
the place with it had like a bar, and then it had the jukebox over there, and on the jukebox came the group that Kenji's talking about.
Punch Brothers, Chris Thiele. So you got a whole rabbit hole of that. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I've got a kindred spirit who loves music. And I went and saw them in concert. My wife got into them huge. Anyway, we're huge fans of that. Also looking forward to like, oh my gosh, my first Jazz Fest. Like, and I'm going to stalk you and make sure like, oh my gosh, if I get to go there with Amanda, it's going to be awesome. Anyway, so I think
did you check out the lineup for the day you're coming?
I did. Yeah. Sunday.
Yeah. I mean, I know Jimmy Buffett's like the headliner. Yeah. I say that it doesn't matter who it is. It's going to be fun. Anyway.
I had that feeling too. I mean, it looked to me like it was a lot of New Orleans kind of base, which I'm like, that's perfect. I mean, I see lots of concerts. I love that. So I thought the lineup was great. I mean, when you were kind of teasing about like knowing secret stages and stuff like that, I'm like, oh my gosh, typical Amanda. Live in New Orleans with Amanda. So
yeah. You should definitely do Jazz Fest with the local.
Okay, it's gonna be an awesome day. But so here's my question, music related to everybody. We're talking about good music. So, but what's the worst? What is the worst concerts? Either just flat out like you went expecting something good and it was terrible, or like most embarrassing is also good. I mean, all of us around the same age are looking back. What's the worst / most embarrassing? I've got a really good one. I'm not sure if I want to lead with it because I feel like I'm going to intimidate you all, but like I can if you need a second to think. But
I know exactly. I'll tell you. It was my first concert. I'm so embarrassed. It was New Kids on the Block.
Yes, that is really good. Oh wow,
New Kids on the Block.
We want to go old school like that. Okay, I got an old school. I was going a totally different direction. So yeah.
Give something like go in that vein. Go in that vein, Matthew. What do you got?
Oh my first concert was
one that you look back at, you're like, oh my gosh, that's embarrassing. That's what I'm asking.
En Vogue opened. Whoa. And then Vanilla Ice followed, and then MC Hammer was the main. Like that was like when you say En Vogue and Vanilla Ice were the opening acts for MC Hammer. Like
you just reminded me of another one I went to that I'm totally this is the winner. Milli Vanilli.
Oh, yeah. Did they sing or did they lip sync? Do you know?
They were lip syncing. Of course they were lip syncing. That's
that's not even their voices. That's right.
Right.
You wait.
Milli Vanilli. You don't even have to answer, Kenji. That's it. That's the winner.
Well, the craziest part was you guys just absolutely crushed me. Here I was leading up like I had something good. Dude, I've never known this about you, Matthew. That's the exact same concert I was going to say. I saw that same one, En Vogue, Vanilla Ice, and MC Hammer. Same exact lineup.
That's funny.
It was terrible. It was really like.
Oh, I loved it. I wasn't saying it was bad.
Even when I was there, I was like, "Ooh, this is not good."
So, but the one that you thought of before Amanda gave her answer was, so I went to a Metallica concert, and Metallica was phenomenal. The opening act was Lamb of God, which is another great hard rock band, but they were just, I thought they were awful.
I know they are. They're not like, it's just screaming. Like death metal screaming. Yeah.
Yeah. And then, but we stay, like, the funny thing is like, this is a longtime client of mine back in the public accounting days had a box, and they were the whole company was like, most of the people had been born from India. So they would go and rent the box for experiences for these people. And after Lamb of God played, somebody asked us, was that Metallica? Was that Metallica? And I was like, they're like 25. Like, no, that's not Metallica. And
that's funny.
Like, by the time Metallica got to all of their good songs, Laura went with me to this concert, like, because this was like a slog of a concert, and you had to wait for the last 5 songs for the great like Metallica songs. So you like go through this 3 hours of just crap. And then we turn around, Metallica's doing Sandman, Enter Sandman, and we look around, and Laura and I are the only people left in the box. Like 20 people have left by this time. It was that bad.
And you're probably also, that's one of those shows too, where your ears are probably bleeding at that point.
Yeah.
Well, okay. I took, this is the funny thing. Do Kip brought his son to that concert too.
This is the manager.
So this is the managing partner of the firm that I used to work at, as a top 25 firm. But he brought his 18-year-old son, and I had brought earplugs, like just for the concert, because it's Metallica. Like, and so I was like, I offered everybody earplugs, and the 18-year-old was like, no, I don't need them. 30 minutes into Lamb of God, he was like, hey man, can I have some earplugs? It was awesome.
Well, I'll tell you one story. Like, speaking of Jazz Fest, a band that I like very much was playing Jazz Fest a few years ago. And I think the one thing to know about Jazz Fest is it's crazy crowded. Like, the lines are long for everything, to go to the bathroom, to buy a beer. Everything is really crowded, and especially in front of the big stages. So I was watching this band that I like very much, and they started playing a song. I was with Monica. I was like, all right, I'm going to go get a beer, or a couple beers, or however many they'll let me take. And I'll come back. And like, I stood in line, got beers, came back, and they were still in the same song. Dave Matthews Band.
That is I was gonna say, let's see, what jam band? I got to be
Dave Matthews.
There you go.
It was like a 28-minute long song.
So you can go to their shows and they play like 3 songs.
Roughly. Yeah, roughly.
Yeah, that's awesome. All right, I'm going to flip us back over to a little bit of some accounting talk. We can't get too much into it, but okay, let me get back to my screen sharing. If I can be a little faster here, let's see if why am I so slow at moving this around?
I don't know.
I'm kind of nervous. It gives me anxiety. What's he going to pull up?
I've got to figure out how to. The Zoom controls sit right over top of the tab, so I can't. How do I move it?
What's funny is we can see everything. We probably
can see everything. I see
but you can't see because
schedule coming.
There's Amanda.
Picture.
We'll come back to that one too. But I was going to plug that one about all this plugging for Amanda. But here's one. Check this out.
Okay.
Y'all, what's going on? What is going on in our space with? I mean, all this venture capital money coming into these bookkeeping firms, right? So, the most recent news here was about Pilot. Pilot's now at, I think it's $58 million raised. God. Just these 6 companies here, there's $200 million. And these are bookkeeping firms. Is this, it's, right, our whole universe of professionals kind of go crazy on this stuff. I don't know. What are your thoughts? Is this a good thing? Is this just out of control? Bad thing for our space? Matthew, you do work with a lot of venture capital backed companies and startups. What are your? This is really hard to keep this kind of concise, but like, good or bad, and maybe for the profession, and maybe a quick why.
Wow,
that's tough. It's a tough one to
it makes me want to say we're building some technology sometime. Because
apparently it's all you have to do is say you're building it.
Yeah, that's the problem. Is like at least 2 or 3 of these companies are started in the last couple of years just producing technology, and all of a sudden they're raising $40 million. So they don't have much, or we know that. But kind of from a broader step back from those are stupid valuation perspective, which. Those are stupid valuations. I think it's probably good. I think the more and more I think about our space, the more and more I think that there is a need for some consolidation. And consolidation comes when there's focus like this in the financial space on there. So I think there's a need for, teams. There's a need for collaboration. There's a need for consolidation. So I think that's going to be a good thing, as long as the right people are consolidating people, I guess. So I think that. So, but that's my general sense. Was like the money on the space is probably not bad long term. Although some of these, I don't know how successful those people will be at getting returns.
Yeah, I see. Well, Amanda, you're like, I got.
I have so many things to say. Do you believe this? Do you believe that these are viable businesses? Because I'll save you the trouble. I'll say I don't, and the reason I don't is because there is a place for automated bookkeeping. I don't think we're there yet. I don't think any of these companies is there yet. And the reason I don't think they're there yet is because to have AI and machine learning, you have to have the database of transactions. So like one that's not on here is Intuit. I mean, Intuit's building a bookkeeping line. They're obviously not VC funded anymore, but they have a database they have quality data, right? Like they can build AI that can read and learn from that huge amount of data. But these companies, do they have enough to really create the product?
Yeah.
How did they get there?
Yeah. I think I fall probably between you guys on this in that I think I agree with you, Amanda. I think some of this stuff is just absolutely nutty and crazy. And how do you get there? I think it's good. I guess I'll say it's good in that there's at least dollars flowing into our industry, and people who are, I think, looking for solutions. The thing is, I think probably us as practitioners know, and you see this, like the solutions are really lacking. They are really early. They're probably not even that helpful yet at this point. So I guess I'm just thankful that I'm not, necessarily an investor in some of these funds that have put money in, because it's so early. And these are, I guess, that's the way that VCs roll, is they're really, really, really betting on the future. No doubt about it. I'd love to see tools that help our team become more efficient. Like we do a pretty good job today with our bookkeeping practice of where our team members can really manage a lot of clients, and they've been able to do that by using great cloud tools. If other really good cloud tools emerge out of this, I'd be ecstatic. As for the strategy of kind of being all-encompassing, that we're going to automate the entire function, I agree with you, Amanda. I think that's too far afield, but it is certainly crazy and interesting, and provides all of us lots of wild, wacky things to talk about when it certainly comes to all these folks who are in the process of building yet still doing a huge raises.
But just even in the context of Acuity, it's been positive just to challenge us on our thinking. I think it's pushed us to think, to challenge how we're doing things, and to challenge whether, I think it's good and healthy for us to be challenged, to see people out there. Because I think we have relooked at what we're doing and how we're doing it. I'm not saying we've particularly changed in the direction of those companies, but we've definitely changed in reaction to some of that attention and rethought things we thought might be true,
Well, whether it's real or not, this all creates a downward pressure on pricing, right? On bookkeeping pricing. So whether these companies will execute or not, this plus the QuickBooks Live thing, I mean, there's downward pressure on bookkeeping services, on the pricing of bookkeeping services. So it does make you think about it. I mean, it doesn't mean necessarily you stop, or you just have to think about it, because that's gonna change the way that we run practices. I mean, my accounting practice is heavy on accounting work, not so much on advisory, zero tax, zero audit. So we have to think about it.
Very much so. Holy cow, we're never going to get to all of our questions, but that's okay. We'll have to come back for part 2 at some point.
Yeah, you failed on time management out of the gate.
I know. We're already.
You opened it up with looking at New Orleans, and we were hopeless out of the gate. This is a Kenji fail.
It's a typical Kenji meeting right here. It goes too long, and we go all over the place. I do have a couple more. I know the answer to this of Matthew, but I'm just curious with Amanda. You were talking before about you're reading books right now. Are you watching Game of Thrones?
Never seen 1 minute of Game of Thrones.
I knew you were either going to be totally into it or completely about it. Oh my God.
Not 1 minute.
Okay, we're not going to go there. Matthew, we're going to save that for another time.
Okay.
Are you avoiding TV at all? On all these things, now that you're reading and doing much more, or is there anything you're watching
So I'm currently watching Poldark.
I did that. It was awesome. That's an awesome.
I mean, he's good looking. I'm just gonna say, the guy's hot.
What are
he's a handsome man.
What? I don't know what we're talking about here.
Okay, so Poldark is a PBS drama about, or maybe it may be BBC originally, but it's a post-American Revolution British soldier goes back to England after the loss, and I mean, it's kind of the same storyline over and over again. Like, he makes poor decisions about his mine that he's running. like he's like the good guy, right? He's the good guy, bucks the system, but like solid, standing up for the poor people. But they keep asking him to run for a political office and he turns it down. Then this other guy always wins. He's jackass. So that's what I'm watching right now. I'm in the last season of Poldark. So between that and I have been reading a lot, but and nothing you guys would probably be interested in. But
so even though Game of Thrones is back, and I'm of course back interested in that, like a lot of the universe is, the one that we've started, like our whole family's kind of obsessed with right now. This guy making this run on Jeopardy. Have you guys watched this?
I heard about it today.
It is. We are now recording them so we can watch them. It is.
That's so funny. Wait, he's still on? He's still in it?
He's only on
he went 40 for 40 the other day.
Well, the bigger thing is like he's now got, I think he's had 8, and he's got the top 4 highest day individual totals. It's like, even if you're not into trivia, I mean, I don't know, people wouldn't like, oh, I hate trivia, but like our game shows, when you watch someone just dominating people in anything, you're like, oh my gosh, this guy is just murdering people. It is
well, of course,
unbelievable.
Like I've paid attention to the nerd analysis on it, which is like the strategy of like jumping around.
I've been reading all about that too. Yeah.
Right, yeah. Like you don't run the whole topic. You like jump around to throw people off, and
you're searching for the daily doubles, and you're calculating your bets with kind of gaming theory and all these. It is it is crazy. Anyway, that's been
how dorky has just gotten 3 accountants talking about the strategy behind a trivia game show.
I know it. That's where we go.
I'm gonna inviting me, guys.
Yeah, you like that?
I was trying to up my social standing. You know?
I'm gonna land us back on the spot that gives us some more social. We'll finish up with this. Again, I'm sure I'll try to share something. I will be able to find it. Okay. So here, right? The NFL schedule just came out.
Yep.
We're there. You know, our good old Atlanta Falcons are playing in New Orleans on November the 10th, and
I'm coming to your house for Thanksgiving dinner.
That was my question. Are you coming for Thanksgiving? Are you coming? Coming for Thanksgiving? Come on.
Maybe. Yeah, sure, maybe.
Nothing. Okay, now, a great rivalry. The fact that, NFL's putting us on Thanksgiving Day, 2nd year in a row, we played, we played there. All right, we all know our biases. What's y'all's prediction on their division record? Will New Orleans sweep? Will Atlanta sweep? Or will we split it and split 1-1?
Just the head-to-head or total division?
Just the head-to-head. Just the head-to-head. The head-to-head matchup. Matthew, what's your take? What's going to happen?
With New Orleans, it's a split. It's 1-1. I mean, it just is every year. It just feels that way. We'll go up there and beat them. They'll come here and beat us, or we'll both hold. But it's not going to be. Nobody's going to sweep this year.
Not this year. Well, okay. Well, Amanda, what do you think?
I have to agree. Like, I got a bad feeling. Like my grandmother said, I got a bad feeling about this season. Drew's old. I mean, he's not as old as me, but he's old. He's old for a quarterback, right?
He's not as old as us.
I kind of feel like we would have made it to the Super Bowl as we should have been. That he would have retired. I kind of feel like that was going to be his out. But now he feels like he's like, shit. I mean, how often does it happen? Like, you can't have a season like we had last year every season. So like, I don't know. I feel like the guy's going to go down.
I'm with you guys. I'm feeling 1-1 because I just have so many memories. I just can't get past of like seeing Drew Brees on the field and like, can anybody touch him? Can he just carve? He's going to kill us one way or the other. Even though you're right, I think he would have retired after last year. And now they went ahead and changed the rule. Unanimously, they changed the ruling. So now there's going to be some, some validation. Anyway,
that wasn't fair. But he's an amazing athlete. I mean, he's done a lot of great things for the city of New Orleans.
He's been great for New Orleans. I mean, anyone.
He's not a big guy. Like you stand head to head to him, he's tiny. He's not tiny, but I'm pretty sure my 14-year-old son's taller than Drew Brees.
He's not big.
And he's amazing, man. He's an amazing athlete. So I don't know, guys.
Can you work it out that he's not amazing on 2 days, Nick? This coming year? That'd be great for me.
You mean the 2 most important days?
That would be great.
That would be good. Well, one of these times we'll have to figure out a way to either come visit you, or anytime you come here, and there's a Falcons Saints game or anything, you're always welcome. We may give you a little bit of shit here and there, but
look, apparently I can just camp in your backyard.
Yeah, it makes it look like it. I know. Yeah, I mean, so awesome. We got to do a part 2 because we didn't even get to half my questions. Probably on a new record length of time, but by far this was. I mean, hey, when you have a guest like Amanda, you can't cut.
Y'all are funny.
Y'all
are funny. Well, I love you guys. I appreciate you inviting me on.
You're awesome. Thanks for doing this. I can't wait to do this with you face to face in New Orleans here coming up soon for both Jazz Fest and the Salon.
Yes, and we'll get Matthew next year. Come if he wants to. Matthew always has something some glamorous trip planned. He's like, oh, I can't do it. I'm going to Cabo.
I know. I got boycotted this year since I didn't come to last year because my fun trip. But
he's like, well, if I wasn't in the south of France, I could probably make it. But
exactly.
Sorry about that.
World traveler.
That sounds like Matthew. So
I'm not in the Cayman Islands doing my cryptocurrency.
I know.
doing sketchy offshore cryptocurrency trips, which he does those too. So
all right, Kenji and I are gonna be knee deep in mud.
Yeah,
dirty, disgusting.
Baking in the sun out there,
right.
Out of principle, I'm going to the Cayman Islands while you guys are at a county salon, just out of principle. So
you give that's the acuity middle finger is
that right there. That definitely is.
That's from Ross and Rachel, or Ross and Monica.
All right, y'all. You're awesome.
Love y'all.
You are the best. Everyone, thanks for tuning in, and we'll catch you next time.
Subscribe. Hit subscribe somewhere.
Somewhere in one of these corners.